Anji, for a wonderful session. Yeah. Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita session. Radhe Radhe, Nitinji, over to you.
Thank you, Radhe Radhe Pallavichi. So let's play the session on anger management that is playing already. It already started. So without much ado, I'll get it started so that we can watch it and have a good discussion on it. So let me play that. Don't go for it. That discerning or that discriminate. Give me a sec. I'll share it again. Just let me know if you're able to hear the audio. And when that happens, one is ruined. That is essentially what this shloka is talking about, which is pretty interesting, right? I mean, when it happens, it happens so fast.
Audio, we can increase
lose the ability to think why it is happening. Sorry, are you able to hear the audio?
Yes, yes.
Okay. We go with the flow or the surge of emotions that happens. And by the time we realize what happened, it's already too late. And then often we have regret around that, or the damage has already happened and it's more about a damage control at that point. But it's beautiful, right? In the shloka, how it starts, you get the stimulus, your memories, gone for a toss because now you want to vent it out. Your intellect has stopped working. So that discerning ability has gone, and then it will lead us to ruin. There's so many examples in real life as we see where one fit of rage and lifetime to regret for that. So continuing on, let's look at it. I mean, if you look at it from a graphical standpoint, on the x-axis, we are seeing anger increasing from left to right. Y-axis, we look at the judgment. As the anger increases, the judgment starts decreasing, as we see that, right? And then, in the absence of anger, in order for us to think clearly or have a good judgment, we need an absence of anger as well, right? So that is how the graph goes. So if you look at it, even from a memory standpoint, the same trend happens. When our anger starts increasing, the memory starts shrinking as well, because we are not able to think clearly at that point. And that is essentially what Lord Krishna is saying in the shloka, that our memory gets bewildered. It's like driving with a mist on. It gets clouded. And then the intellect, which is or differentiate good from bad, and intellect is the governor of our mind, right? Our mind does not operate on its own. It needs the approval or the sanction of our intellect before it commits to doing anything. So when that ability is lost, then one can only imagine, right, how we are going to react. And it's all related to anger, directly inversely proportional. Anger increases, discernment decreases. Anger increases, memory decreases. Anger increases, judgment decreases. So there's an inverse relationship with all the three things that we have. So what does it mean for us actually? With regards to being a human, one could say that this is an emotion like so many other emotions, right? Why not write that emotion, or you may actually use this emotion, right? So it's a very fair call. But let's look at the extreme side of anger, what it can result in. We have gone to the extent of that we lose the vivek or the discernment, but what does it actually mean is what we will look at. If you look at it here, we have plotted a graph. Okay, I think I skipped another slide. So intellect and humans, and that is the ability that we have which differentiates us from animals. Now there's a branch of science which talks about that even animals have a bit of emotional quotient, and there's a lot of research going on around that. But if typically humans operate in quadrant 1 and 2 on the upper side. So intellect, they have the intellect as humans, and more you enhance it, develop it through proper knowledge, the better we get at life, right? The lesser the ignorance that we have. So in anger, it starts shrinking, as we have seen in the previous slide. And when we vent out our anger, when we lose our discerning ability completely in the fit of rage, there's absolutely no difference between us and animals at that point. Let's think about it. We have actually downgraded ourselves from being a human endowed with intellect to an animal which is scripted, which is simply reacting to the stimulus around it, whether it is hunger, whether it is defending. And in this particular case, it's defense. It's a defense mechanism like an animal that gets kicked in, which is pretty scary, because we know what ferocious animals are capable of doing. So with that, let's look at it. Let's take some questions around it. We have like a pretty esteemed group of panelists, let's get the discussion going around this concept, because I think we spoke about intellect and then the memory aspect of it, and then how one fit of rage can actually bring us down from being humans all the way down to the animals. Let's get the discussion going, look at some of the scenarios, and see basically how we can tackle this enemy, like which could be really detrimental for us in our lives.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe Nitinji, a beautiful presentation and a very pretty representation on the axis, x-axis and y-axis, growth, sammoha, smriti vidra. Really drove the point home. Well, I have a question, Nitinji. Like when one listens to a bias for a long, long time, that becomes their truth. They start believing that to be a truth than a bias. Right. And when we have to deal with such a person, how do we make them understand without the person getting angry and without me getting angry? If I have to be, the one talking it out with them, how do we deal with them and tell them that this is your comfort thinking, this is a bias, but this is not the right thinking? Uh, yeah.
No, very nice question, Preeti. In fact, we have to experience the bias or the conditioning, so to say, in so many different forms in our lives as well, right? I remember when I was growing up, there are stereotypes you go with, right? If you have to pick up a profession, you got to be either a doctor or an engineer. That is also a bias. Right? Even at workplace, there are so many stereotypes and bias. Gender bias is there, that only men are good at certain kind of work, or only women are good at certain kind of things. So I think those biases are part and parcel of our life, and I think we have to deal with it. But I think you have raised a very important point here. In fact, let's look at the slide. Let's look at the root cause of that bias to begin with. Um, I'd created a quick thing related to that. Maybe we can relate to this concept a little better from that. So it's the where is the bias stemming from? It's the conditioning that our mind has had, right? This is how it's supposed to be. This is how a saint should look like. This is what life is all about. This is how a bahu should be like. This is how a dal should be like, right? So if you look at it, yeah, we all have all our bias, set of biases, that the prisms that we have employed on our eyes through which we look at the world, and we treat those prisms as an absolute reality. We think that that is how the world is meant to operate. And if you look at it, this is more to do with the conditioning, the environment that we have been brought up in, the kind of situations, circumstances that we have been subjected to. Sometimes it is from generation to generation. You just acquire it from your elders. It reminds me of this elephant. How the elephant is trained when it is small. The owner actually ties a small rope to the elephant, and then over time, the elephant understands that when this rope is there, it cannot really move, and its mind actually is predisposed to thinking that it cannot move. Now it has grown up, that elephant has grown up, and it can actually break that shackle. It has the power. But because its mind has gotten habituated to it, that is the conditioning which results in that elephant not even attempting to move. And that happens with all of us. It's an interesting one. Now, I think really depends on, it's a bit contextual from that sense. I mean, I would like to draw on everybody's else opinion on it as well, because the relationship that you are dealing with, like if it is an elder, I would simply understand, approach it with empathy, that where they're coming from, they've got a certain belief system. If I challenge it, is it really worth it at this point for them, right? So I may just accept it. But if it is somebody you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, it could be your boss, it could be your spouse, it could be that relative that is on your face all the time, then again I think it becomes contextual, because we need to understand the person where they're coming from. Are they open? Do they have receptivity, openness to actually discuss, or do they come from rigidity? That's, it is how it is, my way or highway. So that's where it becomes a little contextual, and then we have to really look at it, how important that relation is for us. Is it within our comfort zone to actually accommodate some of those biases in our life, or it is going beyond that? Is it a healthy boundary that we can operate within or not? So I think it's a function of art. So it could really vary. And then end of the day, the three options are always there, right? Either you learn to live with it, or you change it if you can exert that influence, or you quit it, right? So all three options are on the table. So I think that's where it becomes a little contextual. And regarding anger, we have these options: either we suppress it, but it may not be sustainable because it's just a ticking time bomb, or we express it. But if we express it, is it going to make the situation worse, or is it going to really help the cause? Or we process it, have a reasonable dialogue with the person where we say, hey, let's define some boundaries, let's challenge the belief system, and let's try to see if it's really something which is absolute or objective, or is it colored with some kind of a subjectivity that we can probably challenge. So becomes contextual at that point, depending upon the kind of personality and relationship that we are dealing with, I guess, on this sense, right? Without making the situation worse, of course.
Yes, yes, very true. If the person is literature, probably we can explore many possibilities. Thank you for the answer. It's lovely.
Yeah,
Lovely.
the key thing, as I see from our standpoint, is not to make the situation worse, and
Yes,
have a graceful exit. And that exit could be talking through that, doing something about it, or it could simply be moving out of it if it's something that's an option as well. So, but end of the day, it should not result in us becoming or carrying that resentment.
yes.
That is the key, because that's not good for our own growth, material or spiritual in either case. I hope that was a little bit, I would like to hear from other participants if what they have to say.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe Nitinji.
Radhe.
This conversation was actually very important, and I feel in real life there are times when certain situations people become angry, and it can lead to physical violence. Like an example is domestic violence, and I think it's very important. It's an extreme situation, but it happens, and I think it's important to learn how to manage someone else's anger and what to do under these situations. So I would like to hear from you. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. This is one of the things, pretty prevalent, and unfortunately, the situation keeps happening pretty. It's a widespread phenomenon as well, right? Domestic violence. So let's go back to the slide. Let's take some inspiration from the frame guys give us as well. Own emotional and physical well-being, and second, we are not helping the cause of the other person as well, right? Their sanskars or their mindset will continue to degrade, especially if they get habituated to this kind of a behavior. And even if you look at the examples of drawing boundaries, even our body organs, they have healthy boundaries defined. They don't mingle beyond a point. That is how the nature has designed us. So I think in this particular case, processing it in the right frame of mind is needed, because again, you don't want to get into the trap of bitterment and resentment, but at the same time, the other person is somebody that needs some kind of a healing. So either take a professional help, take help from somebody, or do something about it. Or if there's an option to walk away, so be it, right? I think something needs to be done around that, and it will probably fall. If you look at this framework, if it is a very important relationship that you are dealing with, can we do something about it? If yes, yes, go for it. Try to exert that influence, express, suppress, or process. If we cannot, can we at least draw some healthy boundaries? If we cannot, then we have to do an ongoing expectation management. And let's say we can't even draw boundaries, can we endure it? If yes, then it's an ongoing endurance management. But if it is going beyond your endurance, like physical abuse, you quit. There's a quit is an option as well. Increasing endurance is there, and quitting as well. But that is where it becomes a very subjective call, how important that relationship is. But physical violence, if you look at it, violence in no form or manner is actually permitted in our scriptures, right? And violence is not just the physical abuse. Even the thought of harming somebody is actually considered a violence. And it is, our scriptures have a very clear stance on it. It's not a gray area, it's black and white. So no kind of violence should actually be promoted in, taste directly or indirectly, is how I would see. I think we need to look at it. How can we process it and do that so that it's not only beneficial for us, our own growth, but also for the other person as well, because we are not helping that other person's cause as well. And this is how I would see. I would like to hear from other participants if they have some views on that.
Radhe Radhe Nitinji. I agree violence is bad and probably not recommended. But my question is not that extreme, and it can be correlated to a normal situation, which many of us can agree. My question is that someone, if there is a person who is a relative or a close friend and he keeps digging about something which happened in the past and which was bad and it involved us. So, how do we deal in that kind of situation?
Yeah, I think this is again we can go back and take some reference from our slides on this as well. Um, let's try to employ this framework. So it reminds me of a joke, right? It said that whenever I do something bad, my wife gets historical, not hysterical. Okay, historical means start digging up all the bad things I've done. Okay, I think it's a human tendency. When we deal with somebody, it's very difficult for us to let go of things and keep picking up on things unless or until we have gotten a closure, or for the sake of um, we seek closures for everything, right? And we keep digging things. I think the real thing to think about here is, I mean, if how important that relationship is, right? And if that thing comes across as somebody where you think you did something wrong, giving a simple apology and moving on, will that help? And if you think you have not done something wrong and that other person will understand, then talking through it would help. And if you think even talking through is not helping, simply letting go and say, all right, you are predisposed to thinking in a certain way, let's close it once and for all, right? Will picking that thread up time and again is really going to add any value, is the question I think we need to ask for ourselves or for them. And if you think that this is a hopeless game where the same art discussion happens and it really does not lead to anything, maybe putting a lid to it once and for all might be a good thing, right? Our ego may have to take a beating on that, but a bad day for ego is a good day for soul. So I think it's a trade-off where we really have to think: is it worth investing effort and doing a lot of explanation around it? Is it really worth it? Because if we are clear in our conscience around that situation, that's probably all that it matters, right? How much time we would want to invest on this to keep discussing about it, right? So I think it's a bit subjective. Um, no right or wrong answers for sure. Let's hear if participants can add something onto it as well. But I would say taking it to a closure either way, because otherwise that discussion will continue and then you will have bitterment, resentment. Other person may feel bad. One argument can lead to another, one explanation can lead to another. Every explanation can have a counter explanation. Every statement has a counter statement. Every opinion has a counter. It's a never ending battle. So it's important to close certain threads, and even if it's not closed, letting go of it is also good at times, because end of the day it's a trade-off, right? Our value of time and the emotions that we spend in anything has to be worth it beyond a point. Otherwise it's better to let go and focus on things that really add value in life. I mean, that's my 2 cents. Like to hear from other participants as well on this. But yeah, you brought in a very interesting situation from one extreme of domestic violence to something that is more relatable, that happens every now and then with so many relationships, right? So I think we have to deal with it. At the same time, we have to probably figure out how to let go of it or take it to a closure, because the same thing repeating over and over does not really add too much of value.
Yes, Radhe Radhe Nitinji, I would like to add here a point that what if that person is an integral part of our life and that person taunts us and say disrespectful words again and again, which in return creates hurt. And that hurt, if occurs over a period of time, starts triggering anger in us as well. So, like, how to deal with such a situation?
Yeah, it's a perfectly justified anger in that case, right? That's what we feel. No, I can relate to that. Happens to a lot of us in different forms. May not be taunts and stuff like that, but somebody is there to press the buttons, right? Let's again try to employ the framework from the slide to see how important that relationship is there in our life, right? And you already said that it's a very important relationship, right? An integral part of our lives. Now, if that's an integral part of our life, is it something? How do we label our own emotion around it? We feel hurt, our ego takes a beating, or we just feel hurt because that relation is so close, and our intellect is not able to accept that, why this person keeps on saying like that. Do we feel hurt, our ego is taking a beating around that time, or it's like feeling some kind of somebody's putting us down in front of so many people, right? Those kind of feelings that we get.
Yeah. Actually, it's at times it's like that. How can that person say such stuff in front of so many people about me? Yeah, we feel that particular thing.
Got it. Yeah, so that person again becomes a contextual in that case as well, because is that person like that with everybody, or he's very picky and choosy or selective about picking up people to vent it out? If somebody is having that kind of a nature, then they need a lot of empathy, compassion, and healing. Okay, if you look at it where they're coming from, right? So once we understand a personality, the one way I think Swamiji explains very nicely in his videos and lectures as well, is to be proactive around anticipating problems. So it's, that this person, when you deal with him, he's a loose mouth, loose cannon. So you anticipate it. And then you already predisposed to knowing that this person needs help. It's like going to a hospital and not getting amazed. Why do I see so many sick people around? So when you start taking that personality from that standpoint, first of all, you will not get a shock. Oh, how could this person say that? Because you've already anticipated it, right? Secondly, if they are open to talk, you can have a good one on heart to heart conversation with them. See, this is not good for you. Does it take you anywhere at all? Does not reflect on your personality. It will become a mindset, right? So those kind of things, but that person may not be open as well. In that case, you simply take it, and it's a good opportunity for us to work on ourselves. Start taking control of your emotions rather than giving the keys to your emotions to that person's hand. Because what is happening is you will get frustrated, and that cycle will repeat every time that person will keep on taunting, right? So then, same input, same output. We need to change that trend. So start taking control in your own hands. Here, say, okay, this person needs help. When he's receptive, I'll talk through that. If he's not receptive, let him be. It doesn't make me any less or any more just because he's saying that. I'm still being me. So you start building that, because that will help not only with that person, with other situations as well, right? It could be your boss tomorrow, it could be a relation tomorrow, it could be a friend tomorrow. Now, when more keys we start distributing to our happiness or lack of our anger to other people, it's not sustainable. So the better game plan, more sustainable game plan, is to look at it as an opportunity for inner growth and put a lid, draw those boundaries, and beyond a point, you should not be bothered. It's like, okay, that personality needs some help. Maybe in due course of time, he'll figure it out. But until then, just laugh and smile about it. It's like when kids throw tantrums, we don't get upset, right? And we have to deal with some grown-up kids as well from time to time. So I think that might be an opportunity to look at it that way. Another part of it is, if there is an iota of truth in it, then it's a good opportunity to reflect on ourselves and use it as an opportunity for self growth, as opposed to thinking, oh, how could that person tell it, say that thing about me. Say, okay, maybe he's right to some extent. Is there an opportunity for me to work on myself? And look at it from that angle as well. So direct everything for self growth, as opposed to giving it a lot of mind space, which is not good for you. This is how I'll take it basically, and then I'm getting more control over um, my own happiness and a lack of anger, as opposed to handing it over to somebody else. I hope
Yeah,
that was a bit helpful, Shefali.
yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Nitinji, for answering it so beautifully.
All right, hopefully, yeah. I think we can derive inspiration from Swamiji lectures, and Bhagavad Gita and scriptures are actually giving us the entire framework. We just have to turn over the pages, contemplate upon it, and the tools are there for us picking, right? So that's the beauty of our scriptures. Yeah, Rahulji, you are raising your hand. You had a question?
Benji. So I have a follow-up question.
Mhm.
How do we dovetail anger as a part of permanent cure process?
Dovetail anger as a permanent cure. Okay, that's an interesting question. Yeah, I think we've spoken about the anger, the phenomena, but not so much about the tools as yet. So let's get back to our slide. Um, so if you look at it, yeah, I think we did not discuss this topic. So anger is actually a symptom. If you look at it, it's a symptom. Like, for example, if we have an infection, we get fever. So fever is a symptom. The real problem is something else. So if we trace it back, anger is actually, you can trace it back to attachment. There is some attachment where your repetitive thoughts have told you that this is good for me, or this is what is going to give me happiness. And when that happiness is obstructed, that object that you thought is going to give me happiness, or it should be in a certain way, or this relationship should behave in this particular relation, should reciprocate in a certain way, it's eventually it's our attachment to a concept of happiness around that. When that is obstructed, that becomes anger. So it is a symptom. Now if we go back, there are both ways to tackle that symptom, right? One is the symptomatic cure. We can treat the symptom, or we can have a more long-term cure around it, which is called a permanent cure. So let's talk about some of the symptomatic cures, as a lot of self-help books and otherwise say, right? Introducing a gap between the stimulus and the response. Just take a little bit of a gap, maybe a few nanoseconds. You're not obliged to respond immediately. And then we introduce just a little bit of gap, divinity can act and a lot of wonderful things can happen. So that could be one of the tips. Postponing your anger, if we have that ability. All right, I'll get upset on this person tomorrow, maybe not today. Deep breathing, pranayama, I would like to get into that a little deeper, because we have our yoga expert, yoga guru Devi ji with us. I'll give it to her shortly. Reverse counting to 20. Okay, that is also one of the tools that people use. Puffing cheeks with water. Okay, make sure that water is of normal temperature, don't hurt yourself. Picking alternative activities. I mean, some people go and watch utensils, they go out for a walk, listening to music, and it could be anything, anything that people. But more permanent cure is around stop, stay silent at that moment, right? It's like there was a book from Leo Tolstoy, A Spark Neglected Burnt the House. So if you neglect that spark, it can become a full-fledged fire. And let's say it's like a lady cooking and her cloth catches a fire. Does she let that fire continue? No, she immediately puts it down. Same thing with anger. The moment it comes, stop. And if we could not stop at that point and uttered a few words, stop. As full as you, consciousness comes in and mindfulness comes in. So stop, and then after that, it's opportunity to dovetail it towards your inner growth. Rahulji, the question that you asked, working on self, that is the first part. Okay, that is the introspective part. The dovetailing, I'll come into that, where you think of it, accepting your own faults. Okay, maybe that person was not 100% right, but there is an iota. I'm stupid, right? I'm still not fully knowledgeable. So if person told I'm stupid, yes, there is some element of truth in it as well. I need to work on myself. And then we are all driven by our self-interest, as our scriptures say. So we need to understand where that person is coming from. Their self-interest is harmed. That is why they're getting upset with me. Maybe tomorrow they'll be fine. And when my self-interest gets impeded, even I get upset. More importantly, we have to tackle it systematically through ongoing investments in things like meditation. It is considered to be, most powerful tool to cleanse your mind. Praying, chanting with remembrance, and mindful diet, yoga, pranayam, and that holistic lifestyle. It's like you take the main course, the main pill, and then you have to take supplements along with it as well. But this mindful diet, yoga, they go a long, long way in tackling anger systematically, in addition to some of the tools that we have spoken about. And that is where I would like to invite Devi ji, because if you look at anger, it not only affects our mental health, the physical health, spiritual health, intellectual health, pretty much everything. And that is where I'd like to call upon Deviji to talk about the diet, yoga, and the breathing aspects of it, and how we can use these to tackle this angry temperament. Over, Deviji.
Namaste, namaste, Nitinji and everyone, and Radhe Radhe. Thank you for this opportunity. Yes, I would love to share some of the useful tools that I learned from yoga aspect, holistic way to manage anger, and how Patanjali Yoga Sutra connect to Holy Bhagavad Gita. Maybe Nitinji can enlighten on this more as we speak. So yes, first of all, absolutely. We are as an energy body, energetic body, the whole chemistry, just like Nitinji was mentioning, the anger is a symptom, so that we have to treat that symptom and we have to think about the energy, the chemistry part of how it's functioning. So Patanjali Yoga Sutra teaches how to really handle these vrittis, these lower natures, and the thought waves, the modification of mind matters, right? So the it explained Vidyayaha Panchateyaha Klishta Aklishta. So we have this painful thought waves and we have not so painful thought waves. So anger is one of the painful thought waves we all know. So starting with just asana, we have heard of the um, when you exercise, dopamine comes up. You feel good right after exercise. Right away, you can feel it when this chemistry of dopamine comes up. So same thing, asana go deeper and treat the organs, and it keeps our body and cells function, so that that is the one aspect for long-term practice, to get that space, to get that responsibility, not a reaction. Just like sleep, when you have a less sleep, you feel a little cranky the next day. It's the same thing. The emotion, direct relationship to the body, physical aspect, movement that we need. So do practice asana and do sleep well, and diet. It's a big aspect. If we eat too much, we get again really lethargic, and it's easy to really mess up our emotions. And also, if we eat, we have taste in Ayurveda, it go deeper. We have 6 tastes that related to emotion. That's why when we eat sweet, we feel we call it, it's a booster. When you are sad, we want to eat sweet to kind of lighten up and so on, right? So how we eat also become a big aspect, just like the one we, as a vegetarian diet or any meat. It's another aspect of these, taking on these emotions of meat from the meat or animal, if we eat meat. And if you're vegetarian, more sattvic, more nourishing, and there's less of this karmic emotion that we take on, so on. So diet has also big aspect. Now, another most important aspect, that the tools that we can use for mind management and anger management, is the pranayama, the breath. When we are angry, we breathe hot and smoky. You will see it in cartoon characters. They do a little smoky breath when you're angry. So yes, our breath change with our direct relationship to emotions. So Patanjali Yoga Sutra mentioned that abhyas of vairagya, to these lower nature, to these with these tools of pranayama, such as anulom vilom, can tackle these emotions in not only in the moment, but also in the whole, as a whole, long-term lifestyle to build. So Nitinji, thank you. If you have more relationship from Bhagavad Gita, please enlighten us more. Thank you for this opportunity to share these tools.
I mean, thank you, Deviji, for highlighting this. This is, I think, very important to understand that there are tools that we can use. Breathing is very important. Yeah.
Yeah, that is wonderful, Devi. In fact, that's a beauty of our scriptures. All the scriptures, they reinforce the same concepts from different angles, right? You brought in the concept of abhyas and vairagya in Bhagavad Gita as well. When Arjuna asked Krishna that chanchalam hi mana Krishna, that my mind is obstinate, how do I control it? So first of all, Krishna acknowledges, he says asancham hi mahabhaho mana durnigraham chalam. And then he goes on to say abhyasena tu kante vairagyena chagriyate. So it's the same concept that you broke about. I think the key is to practice and develop detachment around this thing. And because it's not possible without practice, because our senses are so strong, they'll take us back to the older practice and habits that we do. Beautiful point, Deviji. I think it's a holistic way of tackling it. Maybe we can pull up a slide just to look at anger, so that I can recap and summarize what we have been talking about. because anger is not just another emotion. Do we have the slide for that? Okay. It's anger is not just another emotion that you know, we let it vent, right? Because if anger, it's called one of the anarthas, and it's not good for us. Not only it has impact on our physical health, spiritual health, mental health, right? There are so many studies that have been conducted even in Yale University and otherwise, which tells us it has a direct correlation with our heart rate, right? People can actually they can start having predisposition to diabetics, if you continue to be anger. And then from a spiritual standpoint, we are actually degrading our sanskars, because beyond, if we continue to have this habit, it starts at home, right? It starts with your spouse or kids, then it starts getting extended to families, then to people around, and then on the road, and then on the country, and then on the newspaper, and then everything, right? So it starts becoming a mindset. So it's important to first of all acknowledge this problem, and our scriptures have actually termed it as manas rog. Manas rog, which is a big deal, right? Actually a disease that needs to be tackled systematically, and not give it a free hit like we normally do. So, and then the other aspect of it is that we have to look at it holistically, not in isolation, and not just cure the symptom, but also work towards having a permanent cure to this problem. Because end of the day, these assets that we are building, they are perpetual assets. Spiritual assets are perpetual assets. Material assets, we remain here only. So the more we can rid ourselves for anger, this problem called anger, the better off we are, not just in this life, but in the lifetimes to come as well, because our mind is our permanent accomplice across lifetimes. And systematic tackling, we, I think, covered on different aspects. The symptomatic curing is there as well. And then the more permanent curing, we spoke about building, investing in spiritual practices, taking care of your diet. You cannot expect to eat chilies and remain calm. It has a direct correlation with that. Yeah, Devi brought in very nice yogasanas, the pranayams. You can try that out. I think it helps us clear our mind immediate effect. And there are so many symptomatic cures we can employ as well, whatever works for us, until it starts becoming a mindset. But the key thing for me here is, in today's discussion, is be mindful, because this is an emotion that attacks us when we least expect it. So as long as we are building awareness, mindfulness around it, and doing something about it, I think that would be a good step to begin with. And we have Bhagavad Gita, our scriptures, Patanjali Yoga Sutra, so many places to take good references from and draw inspiration from. And if we look at it, some person who's actually pressing our buttons, there are a few points to ponder upon in the screen, right? You can go through that. It actually, you can look at it as an inner growth opportunity as well. And then last but not the least, I wanted to take Rahulji's question: how do we dovetail it? That was the beautiful question. Now, anger, you don't have to simply suppress it. You can actually dovetail your anger towards anger itself. You can say, I've been working on myself for so long, I've been reading so many books, drawing inspiration from scriptures, and still I get upset, with the slightest provocation. So that anger can be directed towards your own anger, your own self. How come I'm not able to overcome this problem? What can I do better? How can I increase my practice, meditation, sadhana, have a more mindful diet, bring in yoga, other aspects to it, so that I start becoming better at it. So next time the threshold has to increase, basically. At least I'm getting better at it. I think that will be a good start. And I think the discussion that we have had, it would serve its purpose if we simply start becoming mindful, draw some inspiration around it, and then start working on ourselves. Thank you, everybody, for your time and for a wonderful discussion and bringing in such varied perspective, for making it a very, very enriching discussion today. And thank you, everybody. Hope you liked this discussion on anger 2.63, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for the opportunity for having this discussion today.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. All right. Are you able to hear me now? Okay. Hope you
Yes,
enjoyed
Nitinji. Yeah.
live recording or recorded live session. So this was for the Gita festival. We did that recording and it was supposed to be played today. So I thought it's a good opportunity to recap some of the concepts. Since we have time, I could see some participants raising hands in between.
Yeah.
We can take the questions now because it was a pretty interesting conversation and we tried to look at it holistically with different set of questions, something that we can relate to. So let's get the discussion going. And Pallaviji, then you can maybe if you want to make the announcements first, you can do that and then we can kick off the discussion. That
Yeah. Yeah. I saw Sunit Ji's hand raised also, but now I don't see her. So I can take Nainik Ji first, and then I can.
Sunitji, you can come back. Maybe Sunitji, it's a live session and
Yeah.
next session. But yeah, if you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand.
Yes. Yeah. Nainik Ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Yes, I have one question. I found controlling anger is not easy. I am involved in a real estate and I manage some properties. So like today, just before the session, I gave someone to plumber to do, electrician to do the work. And he said, I have done it. And I found that then I called the center point energy and found that he has not done it, because the permit is required. And then he just was lying. Then again, I got angry. I told him, send me the report or send me the permit, So I was angry. Then after I talked to him, I start thinking I should not have been angry. But every time it happens that my business requires people who lie or they do it, don't do the work and they lie that I have done it. So I get angry. And then they do the work. So I thought anger is bad. I understand here, but when sometime I get angry and then I repent that I should not have been angry. So it's not easy to take it away.
That's true, very true. It is said that it is called the Senapati, a commander in chief of all the anarthas that we have, and the most potent tool of Maya. And it will go. It's the last thing to go. Probably just before ego. It's not easy, but over time, that's the whole idea. Maybe Krishna thought that Nainik Bhai is attending, Bhagavad Gita classes, so let me test him a little bit today through the plumber or the carpenter. But yeah, I think the key thing is to get better over time so that the stimulus, the intensity of that has to increase for us to get to the same level of anger. If that's happening, then we are on the right path because we are diminishing its intensity. And previously, just somebody touches us and we become anger. And now he really have to poke us to make us angry. That is a sign of progress. But yes, I agree. It's not something that because we are so habituated to it, but with mindfulness, you have to get better at it. But you rightly pointed out, it was a moment of regret for you afterwards, right? So, but the fact that you could bring in that itself is a sign of progress because previously you would have justified it, right? You would have said, no, I deserved to be angry because he didn't do his work. But now you are reflecting on it, but that mindfulness itself starts bringing in progress. But thank you for sharing that, Nanik Bhai. It's very relatable. It happens to us all the times, different parts of the throughout our
So
life.
we talked that doing yoga at Pranayama help.
Yeah,
I thought more important is meditation
yes, yeah.
than even yoga asana or pranayama.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Very, very helpful. Extremely helpful. Thank you, Nanik Bhai, for sharing that. Okay, let's continue.
Thank you, Nainik Ji. So many people have mentioned that volume was not correct for them. So is it okay now? Uh, please give thumbs up if you can hear properly.
Was the volume of the audio?
Yeah, volume or what you were saying. Okay, now people are giving thumbs up. I think Rupa Ji also mentioned.
There may be some problem on
Ji.
your side, if your internet is slow or something like that, because if it's a problem, then it should be a problem for all.
I think it's okay now. It looks like it is okay. All right. Thank you, Nitin Ji. I'll take question from Pragya Ji.
Yes, Pragya.
Radhe Radhe Pragya Ji. Please go.
Radhe Radhe, Nitin, Pallaviji, and everyone. What a beautiful discussion and such powerful tools from everyone. And yeah, what Nitin is highlighting, mindfulness, taking a step back, how important is that relationship? And yeah, when it comes to kids, we always think, kya hua, bhook lagi hai kya? School mein kuch ho gaya kya? See, we always go at the cause instead of generally blurting out, because I think, yeah, relationship is important. In other relationships, maybe ego comes more. So yeah, all these are still remains a tool. I want to highlight what Maharaji says, and again, it's a line from Bhakti Shatak. ये सब जो सारे ये गुण हैं, जो virtues हैं, as Devi ji was saying that this anger, lust, greed, everything is vrittis, and we want virtues, we want to acquire, we want to get over. It doesn't make us happy to get angry or to blurt out at anyone. It is equally bad for both the parties. So what Maharaji highlights is Satya Ahimsa Adi Man Bin Hari Bhajan Na Paye Radhe Radhe जलते घृत निकले नहीं कोटिन करिए उपाय राधे राधे. Like what Maharaj is saying कि ठीक है, ये सारा tools है, it will be useful to a degree. But जब ये साधना है, जो meditation है, as Nanak ji was highlighting that meditation is any time, any form of meditation, the most powerful tool. And if we do on God or the रूप ध्यान meditation, वो हमारे अंतःकरण को शुद्ध करता है. So we have to go at the root of the problem. अंतःकरण को शुद्ध करना है. Tools, of course, we know we need as starters. Pranayama is super effective. Because it ruffles the nerves, our body. So when we do conscious breathing, it definitely has a calming effect. But everything remains as a tool. ये सब विल पावर है, और हमें अपने अंतःकरण को शुद्ध करना है. आत्मा की शक्ति को जब हम जगाते हैं और जब शुद्ध करते हैं, then we have more stable results. And of course, it's a journey. We get as much as we given. So with conscious thoughts and everything that has been mentioned beautifully. Very nice session, very useful. It seemed I had missed it, but good to catch up today. Thank you, Nitin.
Thank you, Pragati. Beautiful. It's always great you bring in the context from Sri Maharajji's Bhakti Shatak. That is always, puts things in perspective, goes directly to the point without beating about the bush at all, right? So you have to beat about the bush just to be a little more relatable. Yes, see, Bhakti, devotion, and Rup Dhyan, Antakarani Shuddhi is like a Swiss Army knife. No matter which problem we are talking about, it will directly hit that. It's just like, can we grow mangoes on a hilltop? We cannot. Why? Because the environment is not conducive for that. Similarly, once our antakaran is shuddh, the Devic gun have to manifest. Anger has to diminish. Honesty, truthfulness has to come in. Clarity of mind, knowledge has to come in. So that is the silver bullet for everything. If you can get to that directly, nothing like it. But if you're not yet there, keep taking supplements. We can go with symptomatic cures. We can go with some other cures. But this is something, if we can do Rup Dhyan, we can start cleansing ourselves on a day-to-day basis. All the things will start falling in place. There's nothing else that needs to be done. It's like that silver bullet, which will take care of all the things, all the problems, mental problems that you have for sure. Beautiful point. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Praket. All right.
Thank you, Pragyaji. In chat, many people have mentioned about that. What a wonderful workshop. What a great discussion. It was very simplistic and good. A very good recap for us as well.
Yeah, credit goes to all our panelists who had such thoughtful questions, relatable questions, and I enjoyed that discussion. We actually thought of doing it a bit scripted around it, but most of it was spontaneous. That was a part of it, right? And it worked out really well. So thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Shefali, Sandhya, and Preeti ji and Devi. It worked out all right. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for that. Yes.
Lakshmi ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe everyone.
Right.
Nitinji, you said like when the anger management, either you control yourself or go away at that or be silent at that moment. Like if we go on doing like this, if the issues clarified or solved, but the opposite person ego is hurted.
Which one you said? Did you said you are going to express it? Which?
No, like be silent and move on from that place.
Okay.
Okay. Like if that issue has been solved by this process, does that affect the ego of the opposite persons, and does it affect on the other issues when it comes between the same two persons? So does it affect? Yeah.
That's when every situation is contextual. But you responding in a fit of rage at that moment, is it going to help the cause? You think responding angrily would help the cause better than just walking away and approaching it with a clear mind? That's a question you need to ask. Yes, if you think you becoming angry is going to really solve the problem, maybe that might be an option at all as well, right? So, but that's why everything is very contextual. More often than not, we are able to come to a solution when we are able to think clearly. And Lord Krishna is very clearly saying that when you are in a fit of anger, the first thing that takes a hit is your discerning ability, your memory. Everything is not, it's not operating at a very optimal level at that point. So when your mind is not operating at an optimal level, how can we hope to come up with a solution or salvage that solution as effectively as we would really like to do? That's a question that needs to be asked. We need to be at the best, in the best of our game to tackle any situation, right? Even sports people, they do that. I give that example of Dhoni. Somebody asked him, how do you remain cool in such tense situations? You know, those situations which can make people panicky. He said very interesting thing. He said, I just remain where I am. And people have already lowered their game because they are becoming panicky or frustrated. So he's already gained an advantage just by staying where he is. But people who are even more, they are able to raise their game in those levels as well. And that takes a lot of spiritual strength and understanding and self-control and a lot of practice actually to do that. Otherwise, we simply fall prey to the trap of anger. The moment the stimulus comes, we start participating in it before it gets too late, you know, by the time we realize it.
Nitin ji, if I can add to Lakshmi ji's question, many times it's noticed that if someone walks away in front of angry person, if someone is angry and the other person in front of the angry person walks away from there, that makes the angry person angrier even, because they think that, okay, the person is like, I'm not done yet, how can you leave and walk away, kind of thing.
That's also true.
Yeah, that is the feeling which goes on, that I'm not done, how can you walk away from it? You have to listen to everything. The person needs to vent out. And the angry person, and unfortunately.
So sometimes if you deny that opportunity to them, it can make them even more angry. It's like, okay, I'm not done yet.
That was confusion I was having because I'm facing that. So that's the reason I asked that question.
Being silent is the only option, looks like, Lakshmi ji. So Pragya ji has mentioned in the chat that Maharaj ji says silence is golden. Galat fehmi, what she has mentioned, galat fehmi hai ki I don't retort. Oh, okay. People think that if I don't retort, I am weak. But actually, silence needs more power and more strength than being impulsive.
Yeah, except the other person takes it granted that she won't respond or she can't do or something like that. So yeah, all sort of things I'm facing, but few things I could make it out, but still few things are a little confusion, like the other person make it granted or the ego still hurts by the way we take up response to that issues and all.
Yeah, one thing Swamiji said, it's a very important nugget he gave, you know, when we are working with somebody, or for that matter, even in these kind of situations. So the simple thumb rule to be asked at that point is, are we approaching this situation with love and empathy, or are we approaching this situation with a kind of an ego trip that we are taking? right? If you're approaching anything with love and compassion, then you will find out ways to tackle their anger as well. We do that with kids at times, right? We
Yes,
let
yes.
them vent it. We know that where they're coming from. But when we start making it a one-on-one battle now, I've got to prove a point and I have to prove that person wrong. That's when things start getting right. With adults, we cannot take the same stance as we take with kids. But we have to understand sometimes we have to deal with adult kids also who keep on throwing tantrums or getting angry. But if you genuinely want to help that person, let's say you're approaching it with love and empathy, then you will find out ways to quell that anger as well. We actually become upset ourselves, and that is what starts causing problems. Spirituality tells us start working on yourself, your emotions, start taking control of that, and then you can really help the other person as well.
Thank you.
That's true. Yeah, thank you, Lakshmiji. It was wonderful question. But many times I have also noticed, Nitinji, that if the other person remains silent for a long time, then it cools down the angry person also.
True, it's a bit of like a fizz, right? It comes and goes. And it's important to, I mean, sometimes I'm sitting and something is happening, and before I realize, I know I'm angry. Why am I getting upset? Then you feel amused. Okay, it has already happened because your voice and your email tone starts changing, and then you realize it. The good thing is now I'm able to capture it. I know it. Previously, I would not even challenge it. I was like, it's okay. I'm justified. I'm entitled to my anger. So what? I have to do it. So that itself is a sign of improvement. And the more mindful we become, the more amber spots we will start detecting. But because typically from green to red, there is an amber zone that we are not able. If you are able to identify that now, something wrong has started happening. You can do something about it.
Great.
Very rarely it happens that you are green, very happy, and you became angry next moment. Typically, there is a bit of a build-up. And if you start
Right.
identifying that build-up, you can do a lot of good things around that. You so know, okay, now the situation has started, now it will lead to another thing. It will lead to, so just put a full stop there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nitinji. Wonderful explanation. Before we move on to the further discussions, I'll just take quick
Sure,
moment
sure. You
to
can make
make
the announcement.
one announcement. So the featured event is Hanuman Jayanti, which is going to take place April 16, that is Saturday, 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. CDT. And this is actually Hanuman Jayanti. There will be a lot of interesting, sorry, I think there are 2 days.
Okay.
One is
Hanuman
Saturday,
Jayanti.
one is 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. also. Okay, Lord Hanuman Puja, Akhand Hanuman Chalisa, Lord Hanuman Abhishek, and Lord Hanuman Aarti and Archana. So this is going to be in the morning and evening, both the time. So please do attend in person and online as well. So that is one of the great events.
Okay. Plus, I want to announce about the CIC inauguration from April 22nd to April 25th. We are going to have a walkathon as well. That Swamiji will be here. So do join us. It's going to be, we're going to have a walk and kickstart that event as well. And CIC is like, amazing infrastructure that we will be having. These CIC sessions we started even when that infrastructure was not in place. So you can only imagine what's going to happen once we have it in place. It's going to take those offerings to another level for sure. So do attend that. Do help us spread the word around as well. And the walkathon, look out for that because it's tied to the fundraiser we are doing. So if you walk, you can share your stories and encourage your friends to walk as well. And we just want to create a buzz around it. It's going to be a great, great event, and it's going to continue the walkathon aspect of it, for a while. And anything that you can do to help out, check it out on the website. Start participating in it. Help spread the word around, and do come in person if you can do that. Okay, that will be amazing. So great. And Swamiji is going to come here. So April 22nd to 25th is what we are all looking forward to. Okay, let's quickly take some other, and please
Thank you.
put the feedback tracker as well in the meantime, and we can take
Yeah, I have posted the link for a feedback tracker. Please put in your comments, feedback, questions, anything that you have to share. Please put it in the feedback tracker. Padmaji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead. Thank you for waiting. Yeah.
Great recording and great questions. Just some thoughts around the questions which actually came up in the recording. Of course, we are here. Not everybody is here on the Zoom call. Not everybody is on the path. Whoever is on this path, they know what is the ultimate solution for this problem. But we don't deal with just ourselves. We have to deal with everybody else, including ourselves. So there are a couple things, right? For any situation, right, to come to terms that there are situations and people that we cannot change. And all we can do is try and attempt to that situation and attempt to that person. But after a certain degree, we have to accept that we cannot change a person, just like that person cannot change us. But that doesn't take us away from what is that you need to do to that situation or to the person, like your moral and ethical responsibility toward that situation and angry person or whatever that is. That is number 1, 2. Number 3 thing is the communication piece. For every person in a different relationship is different. How we communicate with the child is different. How we communicate with the spouse is different. How we communicate with our parents is different. If parents are our benchmarks, why are they benchmarks for us? That is because we respect them. That is because we trust them. That is because we value them. So if we keep in our mind that these are the 3 things that why we keep our parents or guru, or for that matter, God at that high pedestal, can we apply these things to that situation and to that person? And maybe not all the time. We cannot respect that person all the time. We cannot trust that person all the time. We cannot give that value to that person all the time. But where does it come from? Why is that we are not able to give these 3 things to that person or to ourselves? Is our belief systems and also the belief systems of that person. What is that they have watched? And I want to draw a small example. In many movies that we watch, especially in Bollywood, it is somehow projected that it is okay to lift your hand and slap a wife funnily, and then they make this humor behind that scene. It is projected in kids' mind as they're growing, and if they see in the household, if the husband is abusive or the wife is abusive or the mother-in-law is abusive or the father-in-law is abusive, what we watch becomes our conditioned mind in the culture and the families that we grow around the neighborhood, and then there is a greater impact of what we become eventually. So if you want to address where it is actually coming from, we have to go back and trace where are these belief systems coming from. How is that I'm thinking that it is okay to be mad at somebody because it was okay that my parents did it. It was okay that they were showing it in the movies or whatever. What are the certain things that I wrote down based on the questions that Rahulji was asking, or maybe Sandhya was asking, or other participants was asking? I practice this. Nobody's perfect. That I think for me is to say that I am not perfect. I have anger, but I need to work on myself. And the only way that I say to myself, how can I work on myself? What is that I need to do to that situation? And I have to do this for myself. Treat the situation, treat the person as a child. If that spouse, if that person, if that relative, if that friend was your own child, what kind of justification would you give to that situation? What would you verbally say to that situation? How would you communicate with that person? You go in with a very deep empathy and sympathy, and then you have to give in something to the situation first. You know what? I'm really having a hard time understanding you. It is my fault that I'm not able to understand you. It's hurting me. It's hurting my emotions. Is there something that I can change in myself that I can help the situation? When you offer that first, there is something which happens in that person. If it's humanly willing to listen to you, if they're not willing to listen to you, that is a different story. But when you offer that to them, that you are weak also, and you're learning in this process, and you're willing to put that effort in and say, you know what, I know why you might be angry. I kind of get angry with the same kind of situation, and this is how I feel. But I want to approach this situation in a very humanly possible way. You give in something, you show your vulnerability to the situation, something might work out eventually. So that's what I do with my students. They come with great attitudes, but I say it's not about them, it is about me. How can I bring peace, the moral justice to a social situation? What is my dharma? What is my job in that situation? So if it makes sense to, I thought I would just put it out there.
True. I mean, if I were to sum it up as I understood it, is that we have to bring in that serenity prayer to our mind in every situation. Giving, basically praying to God to give us the courage to change the things that we can, and then ability or forbearance to take on the things that I can't, and then be able to discriminate between the two. That is very important. And yeah, people can come from different contexts. Some of these could be the stereotypes that is an accepted norm based on their upbringing and the kind of emotions or things that they've gotten exposed to early on in their life. So if you can actually empathize where they're coming from, we are in a better situation to deal with that, as opposed to simply reacting to what they are hurling back at us. Great point, Padmaji, like always. Let's take a few more hands. I can see quite a few other hands as well. You can
Yeah,
expound
I
more on
see
that.
some new hands, Nitinji.
Sure.
Manishji, please go ahead. Radhe Radhe. Thanks for waiting.
Manishi.
Radhe Radhe. So Pallavi ji and I think Lakshmi ji said something about being silent when other person's angry. I've been in that position where my wife's angry at me, and I usually get angry as well. And then two people getting angry doesn't solve anything. A lot of time, uh, our anger is like it should be like a servant, but it becomes our owner. And I heard somewhere that, we should be like Shivji's anger. Shivji asked when he needs to get angry, he said, come. And then when he needs to relax, he just says, go. But in our case, it comes and it stays forever. So, but in my case, I've gone through this, and what I do is I've came across 5 steps that work for me. And one is to think. So when you're angry, think before you speak, because a lot of times we end up saying that we end up regretting things that we say later on and feel hurt about. No matter how angry you are, just present your side on a calmest manner. And the third thing is, when you're angry, just say, I need to take a time out to relax so we can talk later. Or so it kind of allows you to think clearly and walk. So take a walk and still allows you to think clearly. And the fourth and most important is forgiving. It's you learn to forgive others for their mistake, because forgiveness nullifies the anger. But a lot of time the problem is anger doesn't want us to forgive, because then it loses that control. So it the ego kind of stays, but forgiveness is very important, because that ruins the anger plant. And then the last thing is laughter. Laughter is very important. As we've heard, laughter is the best medicine. So when you laugh, the anger kind of subsides on its own. So those are the things those are the 5 steps that I kind of try to follow when I get. So that's helped me a lot. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Manishi, for sharing that. Beautiful steps. Yeah. Reminds me of a saying that if two people, they always agree, then one of them is not required. And there are two people who always disagree, then both of them are not required. So anyways, let's hear. I can see a couple of other hands raised, but yeah.
Great points, Manishji.
Yeah.
I saw Manish Bhargava ji's hand raised also, but now he has put it down.
Would encourage new participants to come forward.
Yes.
If you want to, share something, it's always good to hear from new faces. Please do, and feel free to do that. It's always good to hear from newer participants.
Yeah,
Yes.
Manish Bhargav ji. Yeah, please, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead. Thank you for waiting. Yeah.
Radhe Radhe. Yeah, Radhe Radhe. It was a wonderful session. I can see a lot of participation and a lot of good questions which we can relate to our day-to-day life also. So it was really wonderful. And fortunately, I am on vacation, but I could manage some time to still, attend to this session. That is really wonderful. I'm just going on what Rahul said, a step forward sort of, it's in your workplace also. Sometimes it's with your relatives, with your home, at your home also. Like sometimes the other person creates an idea which is not right. And as you said jokingly that it goes historically, and that is being repeated every time. So, and that is not right. And since that idea has been implanted or has taken a big shape. It's very difficult to change that. I think a lot of participants will resonate at their workplace also, at house also, with your relatives also, that if a person has developed a wrong notion or a wrong idea, it's really difficult to cope up, and you keep on proving yourself that that was not right, and that carries on. And so how do we deal this?
What cannot be cured has to be endured. So I don't know, probably. I think we'll have to just take that. I mean, if we can't talk somebody into it or have a reasonable dialogue around it, then maybe it's a lesson from God to increase your endurance around it if we have to deal with it for the rest of our life. Because we always have three options, right? Learn to live with it, change it, or quit it. Whichever works the best given the situation that you're in, we have to work towards that solution, right? We have to first pick that choose. Can I quit? Do I have to
Mhm.
live with it, or can I change it? So once you've understood the options that you can exercise, then
Mhm.
start working towards it. So
Yeah, that's a wonderful idea. Like, that's a wonderful thing which you have said, which can be applied to various other things, not only one problem. Like, it
Yep.
cannot be a prescriptive one.
True.
So
But
yeah.
just complaining about it in your mind and talking about it, it's not going to take anywhere, right? It's the same input, same output. We have to do something about it. That is why we said it's better to start taking control of your life and things around, as opposed to simply whining about it. What's the point in whining about it? It will not take us anywhere. But great to hear you, Manishi. Where are you joining us from, and where are you having a good vacation?
I,
I can see some.
yeah, I am at Masuri presently,
Oh wow!
and uh, yeah, and I'll be heading for this yogram also after that.
Wonderful.
So I'm wonderful. Yeah,
And
but
how long?
still, I feel it will be a trip of say around 2 weeks.
Okay, we can enjoy the
And
vicariously with you, and you can keep showing us some nice snapshots from time to time. How long you've been attending
that,
for?
it's just because of Rahul, and I must appreciate that he brought me in, and
Okay,
I'm really enjoying it, and I don't feel like missing it. I don't know why.
okay. Now that's good.
So
Pleasure to hear you, and
yeah,
would love to hear more from you. So
yeah, it's been
is
a
it?
month, probably. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a big group if you look at it purely from number standpoint, but it seems like a small group. Okay.
yeah,
So I'm sure it will get better with time. So please keep attending and get more of your friends as well.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you
that's
so
a
much.
very good question, Nitinji. I was just thinking about one incident that for one negative incident, one person has to do 5 uh, positive if things you have to do so that one negative will nullify. So that's how I think endurance has to be strong. So we have to say that for one wrongdoing, or we have to do at least 5 beautiful things, then it will kind of nullify.
Yeah,
yeah,
That's what
that's a
I
lovely
know.
concept. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's also a way. Fantastic. Yeah, I think that should solve a couple of things. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Radhe Radhe.
Vipulji has mentioned in chat related to your question that instead of counter arguing to the point, I decided to stay calm and convey my point across within team. I think it is about related to work at work. How would you handle? Yeah.
Yeah, I still, in fact, I still do the same thing. In fact, because as I can see,
I think we lost
I
Manish.
think we lost him. Yeah.
So let's have Sureshji, last one quickly.
Yes. Sureshji.
In Masuri,
Before I take Sureshji's question, Ramyaji's question is in chat for a
I
long
really don't
time.
have much.
yeah, let's continue. Manishi,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
lost you with the audio. Yes,
Yes.
Rajis, you can read.
So I'll just quickly take Ramyaji's question. It is waiting in chat for quite some time. Ramyaji has mentioned that I feel I have not gone anywhere with respect to the attachments. Can we still hope for spiritual progress?
Of course, that is why we are here. So we have to be hopeful. Ashavan is one of the symptoms of a devotee. Devotee never loses hope. Okay, if you lose hope, I will tell you how hopeful one needs to be. Go and watch that movie Dumb and Dumber. Okay, in that movie, anyway, it's a funny thing, but I always draw inspiration from that. So this guy Jim Carrey, as you would know, right? He's a comedian. So he goes around this girl that he really liked, and then he asks him, what are the odds of a guy like me dating a girl like you? So this girl simply snaps back and says 1 in a million. So his face expression all of a sudden goes down. It's like, and then all of a sudden his light eyes lit up, and they say, "You mean to say I've got a chance?" So even though it's 1 in a million, there is a chance. So a devotee never loses hope. It has to happen. Okay, the very fact that you are having that craving for hearing this message and attending sessions, lectures itself is a big boon. You should count on that blessing. And it, like a philosopher's stone, like a paras money, it will leave that impact on you. Okay, and the devotee is never satisfied as well. They never think, oh, I've grown so much, I've become so better. No, they are always dissatisfied. That hunger will always remain. So the fact you think it's not happening is good, but it should not lead to despondency, or it's not going to happen. It is happening as you speak. Just by attending, just by listening, just by reciting, just by contemplating, it is making a difference. Like that story, the guy's guru says to this guy, the basket which is coal laden, go and get some water from the well, from the river. And he goes get some water, and the water trickles from that basket, and by the time he gets, there's absolutely nothing. Then he says, go again, and he makes him do 10 trips. He said, Guruji, there's no water here. He said, but look at the color of the basket. It started off as black and now it is all cleaned up. So it is happening. You just got to persevere and keep your spirit high. Don't think nothing is happening. It is happening.
Thank you, Nitinji.
I hope that was a good pep talk for you, Ramyaji. All
Yeah,
right.
I don't see her hand raised, but it was in chat, so I'm sure her question got answered. Suresh ji, last but not the least.
Yes, I think
Thank you for waiting. Yeah.
Yes, Suresh, please go ahead. Ramyaji's hand got, she put it down in excitement that, yeah, got to be hopeful now.
Oh, she said she's text back saying thank you to you.
Okay, great. Yes, Suresh. So by the way, there is one other aspect to anger. Suresh, sorry, I will not, you can continue. We are currently subservient to anger. We are the servant of anger because anger calls it at its own will. Right? We have to make it our servant, where we call anger when we need it. Sometimes we just have to talk loud because people can't hear. But we have to reach that stage. It's not that we are talking loud because we have become upset. You talk loud at times because now you are well within control. Emotion are well within your control and you are putting on an act. But that is an advanced stage, and that's where we need to reach over time. Yes, Suresh, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, sir, and everyone.
Radhe Radhe,
sir, I would like to share one incident which I recently heard.
You can just call me. You can just call me Nitin, Suresh. Let's call by first name. That is perfectly okay. I'm not at the stage of being called a sir or anything. So yes, please go ahead, Suresh.
Sir, because being a student, in order to respect elders, so
in all humility, I have the respect. And please go ahead.
Yes, sir. I would like to share one recent news. So once it happened something like that during the abusive talk between son and the father. One son said to his father that in anger, "Oh, you will not leave me to live this life. You will not leave me in this way to lead my life happily. So come on, kill me now only." So he said that in anger, and the father, without thinking at all, I don't know through what means, he just burned him out. He just burned his son only, and it's the true thing which happened recently. And he was sent to the jail as a sinner. So in anger, he did not even think what would happen and is it correct or not, just burned it. So I would say that with every time, with peace, we need to handle any situation. So Radhe Radhe, thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Suresh. Yeah, these kind of incidents do happen, and it tells you, fit of rage, we completely lose our memory, completely lose our thinking power. That is how bad anger can be. And there's another story Swami tells in his lectures, where the mother, there was a fight between two sons, the elder son and the younger son, and some dispute. It went to the court and it got settled, and I think it went in the favor of the younger son. And then the younger son was walking past their home in front of their mother with his mustache up, okay, in the upward direction, and she provoked the elder son to say, okay, go do something about it, and he went ahead and killed him. So these kind of things do happen, unfortunate, but just goes on to tell how bad anger could be. It can make us worse than an animal. So we really got to be careful about this emotion. But at least once we become aware of it, this manas rog, as we spoke in the session, we can do something about it. The first step is to acknowledge the ailment, and then the diagnosis starts. And we have so many tools available. The fact that we are attending this session, that itself will start making us better at anger, right? Um, the kind of things that would provoke me previously, at least I would like to believe I'm getting better at it. Um, but yeah, it's a self-assessment. You can actually see, how quickly you get irritated. That IQ we talk about, right? Irritation quotient. It's not the intelligence quotient. It's over time it should decrease. Not small things you get provoked, and you need to get better. And when people are provoked around you and you can operate with a calm mind, just imagine how much advantage you have at that situation. That's what Dhoni said as well. And it's a great freedom from your own mind, another shackle that you can cut. So if you look at it that way, there's a good reason for us to invest in getting over this ailment that our mind has. All of us have it to varying degrees, and it's a great freedom to enjoy if we can get better at it. We have beaten anger to death for sure.
Yeah. Surinder ji has mentioned, let us try to get angry on our anger in the first instance. Radhe Radhe.
Yeah, but don't hurt yourself, okay? So that's the key. All right, are we done? I think we went.
I don't see any more hand raised. I think I saw Shruti ji's hand raised before, but I think she put it down.
Yeah, Shruti, go ahead. Why should we have all the fun? You please go ahead. If you've raised your hand, you have to ask the question. There's no other option.
Yeah, let me see if she is there.
And Sunit ji has to ask the question.
Yeah, I see Shruti ji. Okay, yeah. Sunit ji, I think she is not. I can't see her here.
Yes, go ahead, Shruti.
Yeah, Shruti ji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe Pallavi ji and Radhe Radhe Nitin. Yeah, I raised my hand and I heard everyone, and it was a beautiful session. Thank you. Okay, so someone in the session said that we should stay quiet when such situations arise. So just staying quiet, I think it doesn't help. The right reason has to be there, because if you just stay quiet without knowing the reason, then suppression of expression can lead to depression. And the other person, they might treat you as a doormat, because now they know where to vent out their anger. If situation, if they get angry, just go to that person, because that person is going to just stay quiet. So how I see it, there's this very nice, Vietnamese monk, Thich Nhat Hanh. He explained it in a very beautiful way, that we can do it in two ways. First, we can have empathy to see where it is coming from. He might be in that situation. He might have some situation at home or somewhere where he is given that, because you can only give what you have. So if he has hatred, he can only give hatred. So just have sympathy and empathy with empathy first, and then sympathy that maybe something wrong is going on with him. And another thing is that you can even think that it could be karma. Maybe I have done something wrong, so it's just coming back to us. We can never know if it is our own karma. We can never know that. But we can have empathy and sympathy with the person. And if it is, so when someone gets angry, we can say sorry, because it could be my karma, or we can say thank you for the lesson. I might have to learn this lesson, and that's why I came here. That was God's plan, rather.
Great. That's a great way of looking at the situation. If we can bring all those thoughts analytically, we can analyze it at that moment. Nothing like it. We have already brought in that gap that we were talking about, and it will help salvage the situation much better than fighting fire without even thinking, for sure. Great point, Shruti.
Yeah, so just staying quiet at that moment and thinking about these things, it actually helps me to put the gap in because
Right.
I'm thinking about this. Yeah.
The fact that
Thank
you're
you.
thinking is giving you the ability to respond and you're not reacting. That itself is a big thing. Great points. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right, we got one more hand, so maybe the last one.
Thank you, Shruti ji. Ramya ji, yeah, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, thanks, Nitinji. I just wanted to share a small read. I just read it in a book that it is said that if you have a handful of water and if you put salt in it, then it becomes undrinkable. But if you add the amount of salt in a river, it doesn't become undrinkable. You can withdraw it and use it. So our consciousness is like a handful of water. We have to expand our consciousness, our hearts, like the river. We have to expand our empathy, our compassion, and everything. In that case, the salt is like the negative emotion or anger from the other person, and then it wouldn't affect us or the other people. So it asks us to focus on our empathy and compassion. So just wanted to share that.
Beautiful point. Beautiful point. Anything that impacts you, that means you need to basically, it reflects on us as well in a way, right? If you are full of so much of positivity, so much of enthusiasm, you will not have any place for anger or any negativity, right? You've seen when you are really in a good mood, you keep forgiving people. It happens, right? Because you are so full of positivity, you have no room to give importance to those things. But when you are upset, even a small thing, and you get mad at anybody, that means it's an opportunity to fill ourselves with more positive emotions. And when you are in really good mood, which happens to people who are spiritually elevated, they are generally enjoying that bliss, right? They are in good mood, high spirits, always having noble thoughts. For them, they are like small, minor hiccups in life. And for other people, that mole can become a, what do you call that? Mountain out of a molehill we can make. So that means it reflects on us as well. If we keep on getting upset, that means we also need a lot of healing. We need to build the reservoir of positive energy within us, and everything actually can be directed towards inner growth if you truly think about it. And when inner growth becomes the topmost priority in our life, then what's the complaint? It's like, okay, bring it on. I can progress even further. The more opportunities, the faster I am on the path to God realization. Kabir ji's doha, right? He says, Nindak nere rakhiye. Without soap and water, he will cleanse you if you simply tolerate that nindak. I mean, these are higher concepts. In world, we will think it's not practical. Our ego will take a beating. We'll become a doormat. People will take us for a ride. But these spiritual concepts are very deep and profound. If you can tolerate that with perspective, who cares at that point, right? We simply have to label that emotion. What is hurting me? Is my ego getting hurt, or am I feeling bad, or does it make me depressed? If yes, then that means I need to work on myself. To be honest. But yeah, it's very contextual, really depends on the situation. But if we fill ourselves with a lot of positive energy, these things will become a background noise. It's like you don't care about it. Let it happen. I'm just happy in myself. Great. Let's
Great
go on.
points, Nitinji. Great points. I remember my mom used to tell me once that if you have a lot of complaints with people around you, then you check within yourself first. Check yourself first.
Very
That's
true.
what she said. I remember that.
Right. Some people get into the habit of having a problem for every solution, right? Or they get into the manufacturing business, manufacturing worries. So yes, if we are always having complaint with things around us, there is a problem with us only. That is a fact for sure. Okay, we can do our closing praise. I know we are way over today. Who's going to take the lead today? Good session. We have beaten anger to death for sure,
Yeah.
like I said.
Beautiful session, Nitinji.
Yeah, it is good discussion today. All right. Who wants to do that? Shruti?
Who wants to do? Yeah, Ashutosh ji has raised hand.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Let's
Ashutosh.
go ahead. Yeah.
You are in a yogi attire today and looking nice, Ashutosh. Go ahead, please.
Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Shantu Niramaya Sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kasjit dukh bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Very nice. Thank you. Tomorrow we will
Wonderful.
discuss the forgiveness. Okay, so don't forget that. Forgiveness, we are going to discuss that, and Padmaji is going to take a lot of questions and complete her presentation as well. And Ashutoshji, if you play badminton, if you don't get angry, that means the spiritual progress is happening. Okay, not with your partner, not with the opponent as well. Okay.
Yeah, wonderful rendition, Ashutosh ji.
Yeah, very
And
nice.
Nitin ji, still people are joining the bridge.
So people are joining. Congratulations, because you joined one day early. Okay.
Thank you so much for such a enlightening class. Thank you so much for all your time. Thank you, all of you, for wonderful participation. Have a blessed day, blessed night, beautiful day. See you all tomorrow.
See you all tomorrow. We'll see you. Radhe Radhe. Good night.
Radhe Radhe.
Okay.